Okay, man, time to get to my birthday Q&A session. Doubtless people wanted to ask me questions about my writing. I mean, that's why I'm building my entire channel on it. Oh. Well, I did not expect this. So, for my first YouTube Q&A, I'll be answering questions about folklore and mythology. Given what I plan to do when I'm not reading chapter of my story involves some Texan hobo rattling off stories in my basement. I heard that, boy. Yeah, no one cares, Jed. I haven't even released your first episode yet. Well, why don't ya? Later, Jed. Anyway, I asked my friends on DeviantArt what questions I should answer and, well, they vote for folklore and mythology. But enough preamble, let's answer some questions. From Hikarino, which mythology do you find the most interesting? A very good question. There are so many good and fascinating sources of mythology, but if I had to pick just one that I really find interesting, I'd say Finnish. The Kalevala is a very interesting epic tale with a myriad of awesome, bizarre, and kind of hilarious events in its pages. From its creation myth, to the absolute tragedy that was Kullervo, to Ilmarinen basically making the first body pillow, to Vainamoinen's numerous failed attempts to find a girlfriend, and finally my favorite, the story of Lemminkainen, and his actually kind of touching and positive dynamic with his mother. Not like Oedipus, you pervs! Close second is Persian, because I'm all about Persia. From Skullmaiden98 comes the following questions. What's your favorite Greek myth? The Odyssey. This is probably a question most people would find harder to answer, but it's real easy for me. I've loved this story ever since I was a kid. A myriad of different and unusual encounters and someone who has no divine favor, and in fact seems to have divine disfavor. Odysseus is a character I really like because he routinely uses his wits and intelligence to get out of a situation rather than the brute force of an Achilles or Hercules. What person from American Tall Tales and Folklore would you have as your best friend? This is a bit trickier, but I'd have to say Johnny Appleseed. Someone who just goes around being friendly is always someone you'd like to have as a friend, and me especially. If Pecos Bill and Enkidu met, would they fight each other instantly or become bros? To understand this question, you have to know that this person's obsessed with cowboys in general and Pecos Bill in particular. No judgment from me. I'm basically the same way with Lady Knights and Bradamante, but that's beside the point. I think they'd probably be bros. I mean, they're both powerful superhumans who are mostly raised in the wild. Maybe Bill would remind Enkidu a bit of Gilgamesh due to his larger-than-life demeanor and bluster. Not gonna lie, I kinda wanna see this story now. Taking that little gem away for later. What's your least favorite Greek myth? This is a bit trickier for me to answer. I don't think it's because I've got any single story, but whenever Poseidon does anything, it just aggravates me. Because he's, to quote Thor, just the worst. I mean, I like Percy Jackson, real excited that it's getting a series on Disney+, but still. Which character from myth and or folklore would you have as a teacher slash mentor? Chiron or possibly Odin? The first one's the character with a ton of experience training heroes and is generally more chill than other centaurs. The other's a god of wisdom from a pantheon that generally cares about humanity. I'm kind of split between which one I'd prefer. Next is from Desert Fox 088. What folklore most inspired your own writing? I understand that there can be multiple, so I'll say biggest influence. The answer is kinda twofold. Carolingian lore and Arthurian lore. The first one has the more obvious tells, since that was the inspiration for my first full-length novel. The second one's more of the spirit, might for right and right for right. Hoping that is both are the tales of the adventures and sometimes misadventures of noble and chivalrous knights. They're really fascinating, awesome, hilarious, and inspirational to me. The two that stand out most to me are, from Carolingian lore, Bradamante's quest to rescue Ruggiero, because it's kind of an inversion of the usual story of knights saving their beloved, only it's a woman who's the knight and the man was abducted. But never really felt like that one trope that I've come to despise, the we're having the woman save everyone everywhere because we're fighting destructive sexist stereotypes by making new destructive sexist stereotypes. In the text, both are incredibly skilled fighters and generally on an even setting, so it's more egalitarian. From Arthurian lore, it's the story of Sir Gareth, a story that I don't think gets nearly enough attention, because it's kind of the American King Arthur story. The youngest of Gawain's brothers goes from kitchen boy to renowned knight, not by riding on his brother's coattails, but from pluck and taking the opportunity that comes his way. Also has the earliest example of a tsundere in the form of Lynette, who, by the way, I ship with Gareth more than Leonis, despite what the original epics say. What? T.H. White agrees with me! Next, from God Dragon King, by the way, awesome name. Which folklore do you feel deserves more attention from pop culture? Perfect answer right there. The Yoruba mythology of West Africa. I did a bit of research on it, and it was fascinating. They don't have gods, but rather orishas who are reflections of aspects of Olodumare. Fairly sure I'm mispronouncing all of these, by the way. Olodumare is the closest to a god they have, a creator entity that has no gender because it's above all creation. And the orishas themselves are pretty neat too. Eshu, the trickster who flips a coin whenever anyone enters a city to see if they find good or ill luck. Oguan, the fallen king who became the metallurgist. Oya, the goddess of divination and rebirth. Shango, the obligatory hero of lightning, fire, stones, and all that fun stuff, and more. This is something that deserves more of a spotlight. Finally, from Azur Oekaki, I don't know how to pronounce that. If it meant scoping out mythological/cultural references from all over the world, would you play Dragon Quest XI? Yes, maybe possibly at some point. Not much of a gamer anymore, but I may possibly look into that game at some point eventually. I make no promises. Well, that was fun, guys. I hope you enjoyed hearing me answer your questions in my magnificent booming voice. And remember, some of the old stories are the best ones. Later.